The grand judicial complex stood like a mountain of white stone in the heart of the Velcrin Empire. Its massive doors opened to reveal a chamber so large that clouds sometimes formed near its ceiling. Today those doors opened for Ambassador Cirith of the Nomathi people. Cirith walked with grace despite her nervousness. Her people resembled Earth's deer, with soft brown fur and large, intelligent eyes. She wore the formal robes of her office, deep blue with silver threading that caught the light. She had prepared for this moment for months. 2 Velcrin guards stopped her at the inner entrance. They were tall, reptilian beings with scales that gleamed like polished armor. One of them held up a clawed hand. "You know the law," the guard said, his voice cold and flat. Cirith's heart sank. She knew every species classified as lesser had to crawl before the High Court, on their bellies, like animals. "I am an ambassador," Cirith said softly, trying to keep her voice steady. "Surely there is an exception for no exceptions," the second guard interrupted. "You crawl, or you leave. Choose now." Cirith looked past them into the massive courtroom. The Velcrin judges sat on platforms 20 feet above the floor. Below them, other species representatives stood in designated areas, sorted by rank. The highest species stood closest to the judges. The lowest stood at the back, barely visible, but none of them had to crawl to enter. That humiliation was reserved for those bringing cases before the court. "My people need this hearing," Cirith whispered. "We have no choice." The guard smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Then you know what to do." Cirith removed her formal robes. The guards would not let her dirty them with her shame. She folded them carefully and handed them to an attendant. Then, wearing only her simple undertunic, she lowered herself to the cold marble floor. The stone was freezing against her stomach. Cirith began to crawl. The courtroom entrance was exactly 100 meters long. Cirith knew because she had measured it on her preliminary visit, hoping somehow she could avoid this moment. 100 meters of polished white stone, watched by hundreds of eyes. Her progress was slow. The Nomathi body was not built for crawling. Her legs, designed for graceful running, bent awkwardly. Her arms trembled with effort. Worst of all was the sound, the scraping of her body against stone. Echoing through the massive chamber, laughter drifted down from the observation galleries. Some species found this entertaining. Others looked away, grateful it was not them. Cirith focused on why she was here. Her planet's trade routes had been seized by Velcrin merchants who claimed an old debt. The debt was false, created through manipulated documents. But the Nomathi had no power to challenge it without going through this court. Her people were starving. Their ships sat empty in orbit. Everything depended on this hearing. She crawled forward. 30 meters. 40 meters, her arms began to shake violently. The marble was so cold, it burned. She could feel her dignity peeling away with every meter. Every scrape, every moment spent on her belly like a worm. 60 meters. Sarath's strength was failing. The Nomathi were not weak, but they were not built for this torture. Her vision blurred with tears she refused to shed. She would not give them that satisfaction. 80 meters. The judges watched from above, their faces showing nothing. They had seen thousands crawl before them. One more made no difference. At 90 meters, Sferis' arms gave out. She collapsed completely, her face pressed against the cold stone. She tried to rise, to push herself up, but her muscles would not obey. The laughter grew louder. "Get up, crawler," a voice called from somewhere. "You are wasting the court's time," Cirith tried again. Her body refused. She had nothing left. The guards began walking toward her, ready to drag her out in failure. Her people would starve. The false debt would stand, all because she could not crawl 100 meters. Then she heard footsteps. Different footsteps. Not the heavy tread of Velcrin guards, but something lighter, quicker. The footsteps of someone running. "Stop," a voice said firmly. "I am invoking observer's privilege." The courtroom fell silent. Cirith lifted her head slightly and saw boots. Brown leather boots, scuffed from use. Above them, dark blue pants with a strange insignia she did not recognize. "Cannot be here," a judge called down from above. The floor is restricted during crawling protocols. I am Captain Marcus Rivera, human observer to the Galactic Coalition, the voice said, and I am exercising my right to observe all proceedings. Cirith finally looked up at the human. He was tall, with dark skin and close-cropped black hair. His eyes were brown and warm, but his jaw was set with determination. He looked young, perhaps equivalent to 30 cycles in Nomatha years. The observer's box is behind you. Human, another judge said, irritation creeping into their voice. Return there immediately. Their eyes met. In his gaze, she saw something she had not expected, Anger. Not at her, but for her. Ambassador Cirith, Marcus said quietly, extending his hand down to her. Let me help you up. The courtroom erupted. Voices shouted from every direction. The judges stood, their robes billowing with outrage. Guards rushed forward, their weapons drawn. You violate sacred protocol. The High Magistrate roared. Remove yourself or face sanction. Marcus did not move. His hand remained extended toward Cirith. Sir, Cirith whispered, please do not do this. They will classify your entire species as lesser. Your people will suffer. Marcus smiled slightly. My people spent 10,000 years making others crawl. We learned the hard way that it was wrong. We cannot stand by and watch it happen again. His hand stayed extended, waiting. Cirith looked at that hand. It represented everything forbidden help when the law demanded humiliation. Kindness where cruelty was protocol. Dignity where shame was required. The guards were 10 meters away now. Moving fast, sir. Etch reached up and took Marcus's hand. The moment their hands clasped, alarms began blaring throughout the grand judicial complex. Warning lights flashed red. The sanctity of the crawling protocol had been broken. Marcus pulled Cirith to her feet. She stood, swaying slightly, hardly believing she was upright in this place where she should be on her belly. I have you, Marcus said quietly. They will have to go through me to put you down again. The guards reached them. 6 Velcrin warriors, each twice Marcus's size, surrounded them with weapons ready. The High Magistrate's voice boomed through the chamber. Human, you have committed an act of supreme disrespect. You will release the crawler immediately and submit to arrest, or humanity will face consequences you cannot imagine. Marcus looked up at the judge platforms. His voice was steady and clear. Then let the consequences come, because I will not let go. Part 2. The Human Defiance. The 6 Velcrin guards formed a tight circle around Marcus and Cirith. Their weapons hummed with energy, ready to fire. The entire courtroom held its breath. Last warning. Human, the lead guard growled. Release the crawler and submit. Marcus kept his arm around Cirith, supporting her weight. She was trembling. Whether from exhaustion or fear, he could not tell. Probably both. Her name is Ambassador Cirith, Marcus said calmly. Not crawler. She is a representative of a sovereign people, and she should never have been on the floor in the first place. The High Magistrate leaned forward on his platform. His scales rippling with colors that Marcus had learned meant anger. You speak of things you do not understand, human. The crawling decree has maintained order in this coalition for 800 years. It ensures proper respect for this court. Respect? Marcus shook his head. This is not respect. Forcing someone to crawl on their belly is not respect. It is humiliation designed to break their spirit. You are new here, another judge said, her voice slightly less harsh. You do not understand our ways. The hierarchy exists for good reason. Without clear rank, there would be chaos among so many species. Marcus helped Cirith stand straighter. She was getting some strength back now. Where I come from, we tried hierarchy based on humiliation. We called it slavery. We called it segregation. We called it 100 different names. And every single time, it was wrong. Earth's primitive history is not relevant here, the High Magistrate snapped. This is the Galactic Coalition, not some backwards planet. We have systems that work. Systems that work for who? Marcus asked. I have been an observer here for 3 months. I have watched 17 species crawl across this floor. I have seen the fear in their eyes. I have heard the laughter from those who enjoy watching. This is not a justice system. This is torture. A murmur ran through the courtroom. Some species looked uncomfortable. Others nodded slightly. The guards tightened their circle. "Go too far, human," the High Magistrate said. "I now invoke the Classification Crisis Protocol. Since humanity has not yet been assigned proper rank within the Coalition, this matter will be decided immediately. Judges, prepare to vote on humanity's classification." Cirith gasped beside Marcus. "Do you understand what he is doing?" she whispered. "They are going to classify your entire species as lesser. Every human in Coalition space will have to crawl. Your people will be destroyed economically, socially. This is my fault." Marcus squeezed her shoulder gently. "This is not your fault. This is their choice." The judges were conferring among themselves. Marcus could see how this would go. The Velcrin controlled most of the coalitions. Resources. Other species would vote the way they were told out of fear or dependence. "Captain Rivera," the High Magistrate said formally, "before we vote, you will be given one opportunity. Release the crawler, apologize to this court, and accept a formal reprimand. If you do, we will delay humanity's classification for further review. You can save your species from hardship." Marcus looked around the courtroom. He saw dozens of species watching him. Some looked hopeful. Others looked terrified. All of them were trapped in this system of fear and humiliation. He thought about Earth. Humanity had barely survived the plague years. They needed the Coalition's medical technology, their food supplies, their protection. Rejecting this deal could mean disaster for his people, but he also thought about why humans had come to the stars in the first place. After nearly destroying themselves with hatred and division, they had promised to do better. To stand for something better, Marcus said quietly. The word fell into silence. "No," the High Magistrate repeated. "No," Marcus said louder. "I will not release Ambassador Cirith. I will not apologize for helping someone stand with dignity. And if you classify humanity as lesser for this, then we will be lesser with our heads held high." The High Magistrate's colors shifted to deep red. "You are a fool." Guards restrain him. The 6 Velcrin guards moved as one. They were trained warriors, each weighing over 300 pounds. They expected the human to collapse immediately under their combined strength. Marcus did not collapse. The first guard grabbed Marcus's arm and pulled. Marcus's feet slid a few inches, but he did not let go of Cirith. The guard pulled harder, his scales showing surprise. "He is stronger than he looks," the guard grunted. 2 more guards joined in. They grabbed Marcus's other arm and his shoulders. Marcus gritted his teeth as they pulled. His muscles strained, but he kept his grip on Cirith. "What is he made of?" One guard gasped. Humans had evolved on a heavy gravity world. Their bones were dense, their muscles packed with slow-twitch fibers, perfect for endurance. Pound for pound, they were stronger than most Coalition species realized. Marcus felt his feet sliding across the marble. He was losing ground, but not quickly. "Ambassador," he said through clenched teeth, "when they pull me away, stand tall. Do not get back down. Make them force you." "They will hurt me," Cirith said, but her voice had changed. There was steel in it now, probably, Marcus admitted. But some things are worth the pain. 3 more guards joined the effort. 9 warriors now pulled at Marcus. His grip on Cirith finally broke, and they dragged him backward. He did not make it easy. His feet dug into the marble, leaving scuff marks. His hands reached out, grasping at nothing. Sir Eth stood alone in the center of the floor. Every eye in the courtroom was on her. "Crawler," a judge called down. "Resume the protocol. Complete your crawl." Cirith looked at the remaining 10 meters to the judgment platform. Then she looked at Marcus, who was now pinned to the floor by 6 guards while 3 others stood ready. She thought about her people starving under false debts. She thought about 800 years of humiliation for dozens of species. She thought about the human who had risked everything just to help her stand. "No," Cirith said. The word was soft, but it carried through the silent chamber. What did you say? The High Magistrate demanded. Cirith straightened her back. Her legs were still shaky, but she stood as tall as she could. I said no. I will not crawl anymore. If you want me on the floor, you will have to put me there by force. The courtroom erupted in chaos. Some species cheered. Others shouted in fear. The judges called for order. Okay. But no one could hear them over the noise. The High Magistrate hammered his gavel, a massive thing that boomed like thunder. Silence. Silence. Gradually, the noise died down. You have both made your choice, the High Magistrate said coldly. Captain Rivera, you are hereby expelled from Coalition space. You have 1 cycle to leave. Ambassador Cirith, your case is dismissed, and your people's appeal rights are revoked for 10 cycles. And as for humanity, he paused, letting the moment stretch. The vote on humanity's classification will proceed immediately. Given this display of disrespect and arrogance, I suspect the decision will be clear. Marcus, still pinned to the floor, managed to turn his head toward Cirith. She looked back at him. Both of them had just destroyed their people's futures, but neither of them looked away. Neither of them bowed their head, and in the observation galleries, on ships orbiting the station and on planets across the Coalition, beings who had crawled for centuries watched 2 people choose to stand. The vote began. And somewhere in the darkness of space, something old and broken began to heal. Part 3. The Ripple Effect. Ambassador Chen sat in her office aboard the human embassy ship and watched her entire career burn down around her. The screens on her walls showed news broadcasts from across the Coalition. Every single one was talking about Marcus Rivera. Her assistant, Lieutenant Park, stood nearby with a datapad. The Velcrin have sent their formal demands. Captain Rivera must be surrendered for punishment. We must issue a public apology. And we must accept classification as a lesser species within the next 72 hours. Chen rubbed her temples. She was 60 years old and had spent 30 of those years in diplomatic service. She had negotiated trade deals, prevented wars, and carefully built humanity's reputation in the Coalition. Marcus had destroyed it all in 10 minutes. What is the reaction from Earth? Chen asked. Park said carefully. The civilian population is mostly supportive of Rivera. They are calling him a hero, but the government is terrified. We need Coalition medical supplies. Our food production is still recovering from the plague. If they embargo us, we starve, Chen finished. I know. A chime sounded. Chen looked at her screen and saw an incoming request for a private communication. The sender ID made her sit up straight. Leave me, she told Park, and make sure this channel is secure. Park nodded and left. Chen activated the communication. A figure appeared on her screen, their features hidden by a digital mask. Ambassador Chen, the masked figure said. Their voice was distorted. I am speaking on behalf of the Silent Coalition. Chen's breath caught. She had heard rumors of such a group, but never believed they existed. The Silent Coalition is a myth. We are very real, the figure said. We are representatives from 17 species classified as lesser. We have been meeting in secret for 40 years, trying to find a way to challenge the crawling decree. We have failed every time. Why are you contacting me? Because Captain Rivera did in minutes what we could not do in decades, the figure said. He made the entire coalition see the decree for what it is. He gave beings like us hope. Chen shook her head. Hope does not feed my people. The Velcarin will crush us. Perhaps the figure said, or perhaps this is the moment we have been waiting for. The Velcarin maintain power through fear and humiliation. But fear only works if everyone is afraid at the same time. Captain Rivera is not afraid. Ambassador Cirith is no longer afraid. If enough of us stop being afraid together, you want me to refuse the Velcarin demands? Chen said. We want you to fight, the figure corrected. There is an old provision in the Coalition Charter, the right of challenge. Any member species can demand a full review of any Coalition practice if they can prove it violates the founding principles. Chen had studied the Charter extensively. The right of challenge has not been invoked in 100 years. The Velcarin have made sure it stays buried in legal procedures. It still exists, the figure pressed. And if you invoke it, there must be a full assembly. All species must attend. All species must vote. The Velcarin cannot bury this with threats and backroom deals. It will still win, Chen said. They control too many votes.
What?
Maybe, the figure admitted. But at least the galaxy will see the fight. At least those who crawl will know that someone tried. Is that not worth something? Chen was silent for a long moment. She thought about Marcus, who had thrown away his career for a stranger. She thought about Cirith, who had chosen pain over submission. She thought about humanity's long, bloody climb from darkness into light. I will need evidence, Chen said finally. Documents, testimonies, data on the psychological damage of forced humiliation. Everything you have. The masked figure's voice changed, filling with emotion. You will do this? You will challenge them. I will do what humans do best, Chen said. I will make trouble. 3 hours later, Chen received another visitor. This time, it was Ambassador Cirith herself. The Nomathi looked exhausted, but determined. Thank you for seeing me, Cirith said, sitting carefully in the offered chair. I wanted to apologize. For what? Chen asked. For destroying your captain's career. For putting your people in danger. I should have stayed down. I should have crawled. Chen poured tea for both of them. It was a human custom that many aliens found calming. Ambassador Cirith, can I tell you a story? Cirith nodded. 200 years ago on Earth. There was a woman named Rosa Parks. She was told to give up her seat on a bus because of the color of her skin. She said no. That one act of defiance sparked a revolution. It was not the first act of resistance, and it was not the last. But it was the one that made everyone else say, if she can stand up, so can I. Cirith sipped her tea. I have heard this story now. Many beings across the coalition are sharing it. My point is, Chen continued, Rosa Parks did not apologize. She never thought she did anything wrong, and neither should you. But your people will suffer, Cirith said. We have suffered before, Chen replied. And we survived by standing together with others who suffered. That is what we are going to do now. Over the next 2 days, Chen's office became a hub of secret activity. Representatives from the Silent Coalition smuggled documents to her. Psychological studies showing the trauma caused by forced humiliation. Economic analyses showing how the Velcarin used the crawling decree to maintain control. Historical records of species that had tried to resist and been crushed. Lieutenant Park worked around the clock organizing the material. This is explosive, he said. If we present this to the full assembly, it will expose everything. That is the idea, Chen said. Meanwhile, Marcus sat in a detention cell awaiting transport off the station. He was not mistreated, but he was isolated. They wanted him to think about what he had done, to regret it. He did not regret it. On the 3rd day, Chen came to see him. Captain Rivera, I am about to do something either very brave or very stupid. I want you to know that regardless of what happens, I am proud of what you did. Marcus stood and saluted. Ambassador, I am ready to accept whatever punishment. There will be no punishment, Chen interrupted. I am invoking the right of challenge. I am demanding a full coalition assembly to review the crawling decree. And I need you there when I do it. Marcus stared at her. Ambassador, they will classify us as lesser. Humanity will be on the bottom of the hierarchy. Perhaps, Chen said, but we will be on the bottom with our heads held high. And we will not be alone. She showed him a datapad. On it were messages from dozens of species. Some were public statements of support. Others were private promises to vote with humanity. Still others were simple messages saying, thank you for standing. The Velcarin thought breaking you would break our spirit, Chen said. They were wrong. They thought humiliating Ambassador Cirith would keep others in line. They were wrong about that too. Fear is a powerful tool, but hope is stronger. And you, Captain, gave the galaxy hope. Marcus felt his throat tighten. What do we do now? Chen smiled. Now we go to the assembly. We present our case. We demand justice. And we let the galaxy decide if it wants to keep crawling or if it is ready to stand. And if we lose? Marcus asked. Then we lose standing up, Chen said. That is worth something, is it not? The next day, Chen sent formal notice to the Coalition High Council. She invoked the right of challenge against the crawling decree. She demanded a full assembly within 10 days. The galaxy held its breath and waited. Part 4. The human solution, the Grand Assembly Chamber, was a perfect sphere, with seats arranged in rings around a central platform. Representatives from 147 species filled those seats. The chamber had not been this full in 20 years. Ambassador Chen stood on the central platform alone. Above her, the Velcarin High Council sat in their elevated positions. Around her, a sea of eyes watched and waited. This assembly is now in session, the High Magistrate announced. Ambassador Chen, of humanity, you have invoked the right of challenge. State your case. Chen activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air around her species crawling, faces twisted in humiliation. Data scrolling past. Honored representatives, Chen began. I challenge the crawling decree as a violation of the Coalition's founding principles. The Charter promises all member species equal voice in governance. But how can there be equal voice when some species must debase themselves to speak? Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Velcarin representatives shifted uncomfortably. The decree is not about respect, Chen continued. It is about control through humiliation. Over 800 years, it has been used to maintain a hierarchy where might determines worth. I present evidence of 37 species who have been economically destroyed after challenging this decree. I present psychological studies showing lasting trauma. I present testimony from those who have suffered. She gestured, and new images appeared. Medical reports. Economic analyses. Personal stories recorded in secret. The High Magistrate leaned forward. You present numbers and stories, human, but you do not present solutions. The hierarchy exists because without it, there is chaos. 147 species cannot function as equals. There must be order. Order built on humiliation is not order, Chen replied. It is oppression wearing a crown. Bold words, another Velcarin judge said. But empty. You criticize what took centuries to build, yet offer nothing to replace it. Chen was ready for this. I offer simple truth. Respect cannot be forced. Dignity cannot be taken. You can make beings crawl, but you cannot make them accept it in their hearts. And a system built on resentment will eventually collapse. More empty philosophy, the High Magistrate said dismissively. Call your witnesses if you must. But this assembly will not overturn 800 years of tradition based on human sentiment. Chen nodded. Then let them hear from those who have suffered. Ambassador Sirith of the Nomathi, please approach. Sirith walked onto the platform. She moved with difficulty, still recovering from her ordeal. But she stood straight. Tell the assembly your experience, Chen said gently. Serge took a deep breath. I crawled across that courtroom floor 3 days ago. Every meter of that crawl stripped away a piece of my soul. I am an ambassador, educated and trained to represent my people. But in that moment, I was nothing. Just meat scraping across stone while others laughed. Her voice broke slightly, but she continued. My people are starving under false debts. We came seeking justice. Instead, we found humiliation. And when Captain Rivera helped me stand, when a stranger risked everything for my dignity, I realized something. The crawl is not about respect. It is about breaking us. It is about making sure we never think we are worthy of justice. Silence filled the chamber. Several representatives looked away. Are there others who wish to speak? Chen asked the assembly. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a representative from the Thaxian collective stood. They were an insectoid species, classified as lesser for 600 years. I have crawled, the Thaxian said, their voice clicking through a translator. 4 times I have crawled before this court. Each time, I told myself it was necessary, that this was how things were. But watching Ambassador Sirith stand, watching a human risk everything for a stranger. I cannot stay silent anymore. This decree is wrong. It has always been wrong. Another representative stood. Then another. Within minutes, beings from 23 species were standing, each sharing their story of humiliation. The High Magistrate hammered his gavel. Enough. This is not a therapy session. The question before us is simple. Does the crawling decree violate the charter? We will vote on this matter, and then we will end this circus. Not yet, Chen said firmly. Before any vote, there is still the matter of humanity's classification. You threaten to declare us a lesser species. I demand that vote happen first. The High Magistrate smiled coldly. Very well. Let us settle the human question. Given your species' disrespect and interference, the Council recommends classification as lesser. All in favor? Lights began appearing on the voting board. The Velkrin and their close allies voted immediately. Other species followed, pressured by economic dependence or old fears. The count climbed steadily. Chen watched the numbers rise and felt her heart sink. They were going to lose. Humanity would be classified as lesser, and the challenge would lose credibility. Then Marcus stepped onto the platform beside her. Captain Rivera, the High Magistrate said, you have no standing in this assembly. Remove yourself. I am about to be classified as lesser, Marcus said calmly. That gives me standing. I wish to speak. The vote is in progress, the magistrate protested. The vote is not complete, Chen interjected. Coalition law allows final statements before votes close. Captain Rivera has that right. The magistrate looked furious, but he could not deny it. Make it brief, human. Marcus looked around at the gathered species. I want to tell you about Earth, about my people. We are not special. We are not better than anyone here. In fact, for most of our history, we were worse. He activated his own holographic display. Images of Earth's dark history appeared. Slavery, war, genocide, oppression in 1,000 forms. We did terrible things to each other, Marcus said quietly. We built hierarchies based on skin color, on religion, on gender, on anything we could use to say, I am better than you. And every single time, we told ourselves it was necessary, that it maintained order, that it was just tradition. The images shifted, showing struggles for freedom, protests, revolutions, change. But some of us always fought back, Marcus continued. Not because they were heroes, just because they could not stand to crawl anymore. And eventually, slowly, painfully, we learned. We learned that no system built on humiliation can last. We learned that dignity is not something you grant, it is something every being possesses by simply existing. He looked directly at the High Magistrate. You are going to classify humanity as lesser. I understand. We knew this would happen when we chose to act. But I want to make an offer to this assembly. The chamber went completely silent. Classify us as lesser, Marcus said. Make us crawl. But in exchange, abolish the decree for everyone else. Let humanity bear the humiliation if it means every other species can stand with dignity. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Chen grabbed Marcus's arm. What are you doing? She whispered urgently. Marcus ignored her. That is my proposal. Humanity will accept the lowest classification willingly. We will crawl across your courts. We will bear your contempt, but only if you free everyone else from this torture. Only if you prove that this decree is actually about order and not about cruelty. The High Magistrate's face went through a dozen color changes. You cannot, this is not, it is a simple trade, Marcus said. You get to humiliate humanity. We are young, we are troublesome, we clearly do not respect your traditions. Make an example of us, but let the others stand. Chen suddenly understood what Marcus was doing. It was brilliant and terrible at the same time. He had created a trap with no escape. If the Velkrin accepted, they lost their primary tool of control over dozens of species. If they refused, they admitted the decree was never about order at all, it was about power and cruelty. Either way, the mask would come off. The High Magistrate opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked at his fellow Velkrin judges. They were all frozen, realizing the same thing. "Need time to consider this proposal," the magistrate finally said. "Now," Marcus said firmly, "you have had 800 years to consider whether this decree is just. Give me an answer now. Will you accept my offer or not?" The chamber waited. The galaxy watched. And in that moment, everything hung in balance. Part 5. The new order, the silence in the Grand Assembly chamber, stretched like a taut wire. Every being present understood that history was being made in this moment. The decision made here would ripple across the galaxy for generations. The high magistrate's scales shifted through colors of confusion, anger, and something that might have been fear. Marcus's offer had backed him into a corner, and everyone could see it. "Your proposal is absurd," the magistrate finally said, but his voice lacked its usual authority. "The crawling decree cannot be applied to just one species. It would undermine the entire hierarchical structure." "Then refuse," Marcus said simply. "Tell this assembly that you will not accept humanity's willing submission, because you need to humiliate multiple species to maintain control. Make it clear what this has always been about." Ambassador Cirith stepped forward. Her voice rang out clearly. "I invoke my right to speak." The magistrate looked like he wanted to refuse, but too many eyes were watching. "Speak then." "Before Captain Rivera made his offer, I was prepared to watch my people starve," Cirith said. "I was prepared to accept that justice is a luxury only the powerful can afford. But his offer has shown me something. It has shown all of us something." She turned to address the full assembly. "The Velcarin claimed the crawling decree maintains order. But what Captain Rivera just demonstrated is that this decree has nothing to do with order. If it was truly necessary, they would accept his offer immediately. One species crawling would maintain their precious order, would it not? Unless order was never the point." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Representatives were nodding, talking among themselves. The logic was undeniable. A representative from the Korvax Unity stood. They were a species that had never had to crawl, classified as middling in the hierarchy. "I move that we vote on the humans' proposal immediately. Humanity has offered to bear the burden alone. The Velcarin must either accept this offer or admit the decree serves no legitimate purpose. There can be no delay." "Seconded," called a voice from the Thaxian delegation. More voices joined in. "Seconded. Vote now. No more delays." The High Magistrate hammered his gavel, but the chamber was in controlled chaos. Decades of suppressed anger were bubbling to the surface. Species who had never spoken against the Velcarin were finding their voices. Chen touched Marcus's arm. "You realize if they accept, you have condemned humanity to centuries of humiliation." "If they accept," Marcus replied quietly, "we will have freed dozens of species from that same humiliation. That is a trait I can live with." "Council demands order." The High Magistrate roared. His voice, amplified by the chamber's acoustics, finally silenced the crowd. "Very well. Since this assembly insists, we will vote on the human proposal. But first, let me be absolutely clear about what you are deciding." He stood, his full height impressive, even among the gathered species. "If you vote yes, humanity will be classified as the lowest species. They will crawl before our courts. They will have minimal representation. They will be subject to sanctions and restrictions. And most importantly, they will bear this burden for generations." Is this assembly really prepared to inflict such punishment? Marcus spoke before anyone else could. "We are prepared to accept it. The question is whether you are prepared to free everyone else." The magistrate's eyes narrowed. For a long moment, he stared at Marcus. Then something shifted in his expression. It was subtle, but those paying close attention saw its resignation mixed with calculation. "Very well," the magistrate said slowly. "The Coalition Council makes a counter-proposal. We will not accept humanity's offer." Shocked gasps filled the chamber. "Instead," the magistrate continued, "we propose that the crawling decree be abolished entirely. All species will stand as equals before coalition courts. The hierarchical structure will be reorganized based on council seat assignments, not humiliation protocols." The chamber exploded in noise. Chen grabbed Marcus's shoulder in disbelief. Cirith covered her mouth with her hands. Around them, representatives were on their feet, shouting, crying, embracing each other. The magistrate hammered his gavel repeatedly. This is not sentiment. This is political reality. The human has made clear that maintaining the decree will cost us more than abolishing it. If we accept only humanity's crawl, we appear cruel. If we refuse their offer, we appear weak. The only logical path is to end the decree and maintain control through other means. It was a brilliant political maneuver, Chen realized. The Velkrin were giving up the decree before they could be forced to give it up. They were making it look like their choice, maintaining some dignity in defeat. But the reason did not matter. The result was the same. All in favor of abolishing the crawling decree, the magistrate said, his voice heavy. Vote now. The voting board lit up like a starfield. Species after species voted yes. Even some Velkrin allies, sensing the shifting winds, changed their votes. The count climbed rapidly. 70 votes. 80, 90. When the final tally appeared, it was overwhelming. 109 in favor. 38 against. The crawling decree, 800 years old, was dead. The chamber erupted in celebration. Representatives who had crawled were standing on their chairs, arms raised in triumph. Others were weeping openly. The sound was deafening, a mixture of joy, relief, and disbelief. Marcus felt his legs go weak. Chen steadied him. You did it, she said, her own eyes wet. You actually did it. We did it, Marcus corrected. All of us, double quotes, sir, approached them, moving through the celebrating crowd. When she reached Marcus, she did something that surprised him. She bowed not the forced prostration of the old decree, but a deep bow of respect between equals. Thank you, she said simply, for seeing me when I was on the ground, for helping me stand, for being willing to take my place. Marcus helped her straighten up. Thank you for having the courage to stay standing. I just offered. You are the one who defied them when it mattered most. Over the next several hours, the assembly worked through the practical details. The hierarchical system would remain for now, but based on council representation rather than forced humiliation. A committee would be formed to review all coalition practices for similar violations. Reparations would be considered for species damaged by the decree. But the most important change was simpler. No being would ever have to crawl before coalition. Courts again as the assembly finally adjourned. Chen stood with Marcus and Cirith on the now empty central platform. Around them, workers were already beginning renovations. The elevated judge platforms would be lowered. The long entrance hall would be shortened. The entire courtroom was being redesigned around equality rather than hierarchy. What happens now? Cirith asked. Now comes the hard part, Chen said. Maintaining this change, the Velkrins still control most resources. They will find other ways to pressure species. This victory is just the beginning. But it is a beginning, Marcus said. 800 years of humiliation ended today. That is worth celebrating. Cirith looked at the empty courtroom, remembering her crawl just days before. I still feel it sometimes. The cold marble against my skin. The laughter. The shame. That will fade, Chen said gently. But the memory of standing, that will remain forever. For you, for your children, for every being who learns this story. Marcus walked to the center of the platform and looked up at the spherical chamber above. You know what I think about when I look at this place? I think about all the beings who crawled here and never got to see this day. The ones who died still carrying that shame. We did this for them too. Do you think they know? Cirith asked. Somehow, I choose to believe they do, Marcus said. I choose to believe that somewhere every being who was ever forced to crawl is standing a little taller today. Weeks later, Marcus returned to the courtroom one final time before leaving the station. The renovations were nearly complete. The entrance hall was now a reasonable length. Judge platforms were at ground level. And in the center of the chamber, a new monument had been erected. It was a statue of two figures, one clearly Nomathi, one clearly human. The human had their hand extended. The Nomathi was reaching up to take it. Both were rising together. The plaque at the base read simply, "Dignity cannot be given." can only be recognized. Here, we chose to see. Marcus stood before the statue for a long time. Other beings came and went, many pausing to look at the monument. Some reaching out to touch it like a blessing. An elderly Thaxian approached, moving slowly with age. They looked at the statue, then at Marcus. "You are the human from the story." "I am one of them," Marcus said. "There are many others." "I crawled here 52 years ago," the Thaxian said softly. "It was the worst day of my life. Thought I would carry that shame forever." They touched the statue gently. "Thank you for ending it. Thank you for making sure no one else has to feel what I felt." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "You survived it. You are still here." "That took more courage than anything I did." The Thaxian made a gesture that Marcus had learned meant profound gratitude. "We are all standing now. That is what matters." As Marcus left the courtroom for the last time, he passed dozens of beings entering for their hearings. All of them walked upright. All of them held their heads high. None of them crawled. And in that moment, Marcus understood what Ambassador Chen had meant about this being just the beginning. They had not solved all the galaxy's problems, so the Velkrans still held power. Injustice still existed in 1,000 forms. There would be new struggles, new battles, new moments requiring courage. But today, in this place, beings walked instead of crawling. And sometimes, that was enough. Sometimes, that was everything. Marcus thought about Earth, about humanity's long journey from darkness into light. He thought about all the people throughout history who had reached down to help someone stand, who had risked everything for a stranger's dignity, who had refused to accept that cruelty was necessary. He was not special. He was just one more human, carrying forward a lesson learned through centuries of mistakes. A lesson written in blood and tears and hard-won wisdom. No one should ever have to crawl. No, if they are forced down, you help them stand. Not because it is easy, not because it is safe, but because it is right. And in a galaxy of 1,000 species, that simple truth was finally beginning to take root. The story of the human who helped a stranger. Stan would be told for generations. But Marcus hoped that someday it would not be a remarkable story at all. That someday helping others stand would be so common, so expected. So woven into the fabric of civilization that no one would think twice about it. That day was not today. But today was a step closer. Marcus walked out of the Grand Judicial Complex with his head held high, ready for whatever came next. Behind him, the sound of footsteps echoed through the halls, the sound of beings walking, not crawling, into their future. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the galaxy turned a little more toward the light.